Welcome to the Support Automation Show, a podcast by Capacity. Join us for conversations with leaders in customer or employee support who are using technology to answer questions, automate processes, and build innovative solutions to any business challenge. I'm your host, Justin Schmidt. Good afternoon, Craig.
Hi, Justin. Good to be with you.
Thank you. Where's this podcast find you?
I am in Spanish Fork, Utah, just about 45 minutes south of Salt Lake City.
Beautiful part of the country. I've driven through Salt Lake a few times, haven't had a chance to visit though, but I would like to. It seems like a very beautiful place.
Yeah, there's a lot of hiking, camping, outdoors activities that you can do. So it's a lot of fun.
Excellent. So full disclosure, Chargebee is a customer of Capacity's, but we're going to spend this time not talking about Capacity, but really talking about support automation for employees and how HR and employee engagement, people success teams at companies can leverage automation and AI to make a better employee experience. So Craig, starting in that realm, when and why and how did you first get into people success and HR?
Yeah, so I didn't go a direct route into HR. I got a bachelor's in psychology and I did some operations management, small business consulting while I worked on an MBA. And then after I graduated with my MBA, I had the bright idea to get a PhD in organizational behavior in HR. And so we moved to Texas for that. And 2 years into the program, I decided that academia wasn't for me. I was looking for something more practical and hands-on. Mm-hmm. So I did gain a lot of skills and knowledge through my courses, specifically on the analytical side. But I wanted to do work for a real organization with real mm-hmm. problems. And so I left and I got into HR. I've worked for a couple different companies prior to joining Chargebee, and I joined Chargebee in February of 2020.
Awesome. And tell us a little bit about what Chargebee does and the market they serve.
Yeah, so Chargebee is a subscription billing management software. And the industry is growing like crazy. There's a ton of companies who have either tried to figure out their own solution mm-hmm. or just do it in-house. But really, because of the complexities of the different subscription plans that you can make available to your customers and the different currencies, if you have global customers, different tax laws, it's really hard and complicated to do it all by yourself. And so we help companies to automate that process and so that they can focus on just their core business and growing their business. And what's really fun is as our customers grow and have success, we grow and have success. So we're definitely invested in the growth of our customers. Yeah,
it's interesting because every business grows with their customers, but Chargebee is a SaaS company that helps other SaaS companies, and there's a real one-to-one sort of relationship as that growth happens. And with growth, you have things like team growing, maybe you're opening new offices, the internal operations at the business gets bigger and more complicated, et cetera, et cetera. In your role within Chargebee, what types of technological hurdles have you crossed on using tech and technology to help with that scale as Chargebee has grown?
Yeah, so to provide a little bit of background in the growth that we've experienced since I started in February of 2020, and we had just over 400 employees globally. We had about 18 or 19 employees in the US. I was the first HR employee hired into the US, and now we have about 675 employees globally. We have 74 employees in the US. So we have employees in India, different parts of Europe, Australia, US, and Canada. So there's just been a lot of growth and a lot of things to do. And so we are not there yet as far as having all of the technology that we need. But a couple of the issues that we face is the onboarding, the recruiting and the onboarding process it's changing so fast. New positions are added. Our recruiters are talking to so many different people, and we have people joining all the time. And there's a lot of different paperwork that's required depending on the country and where the employee lives. So there's the Chargebee paperwork agreement, and then there's also regulatory, statutory type requirements that are necessary, like the I-9 in the US. And so it's a lot of work to try to manually keep track of all of that information. And so one of the challenges that we face is we have payroll systems, multiple payroll systems, depending on the geography of where our employees are located. And so there's a lot of work that goes into multiple hands touching to make sure that employees, new hires, they are entering their information into the right systems, that all of the information is taken from the recruiting team, from the HR team to our HR operations team that does a lot of the systems work, and communicating back and forth with the candidates on, here's the systems that you need to add your information into. You need to sign up for to do a background check, etc.
Right.
And so it's, when you add the volume that we're hiring at, it's a lot of manual work.
Yeah, you can, pardon the phrase, but there's the death by 1,000 cuts, so to speak, of when you go through this process, 250 times or whatever it is that you guys have done in the last year, which is amazing, by the way. Not only do you have an opportunity to try to make that, not only do you have an opportunity to work to make that experience as seamless as possible on an individual applicant basis, once someone comes on board, you also have the onboarding and the knowledge sharing, and people need to know. It's funny, in a mostly distributed work environment, sort of learning where the coffee machine is not
not as important.
No, it's not quite as important, but there's still the virtual equivalent of that, and then of course, obviously, in the office there is as well. One of the things that when we look at support automation, the three pillars of it that we like to talk about are answer, automate, and build. And answering is under answer, rather, you have FAQs, the knowledge base, employee policies, what vacation days do we have, how much PTO, all that stuff. Like, these are all questions that people have that using technology to help standardize and make that stuff available is really important. When you look at all the onboarding and the growth and the acceleration of the amount of people you're bringing in, what has been, once people are inside the organization and have joined the team, what's the biggest challenge in getting people up to speed at that scale?
I think it's just like you mentioned, the information about the different policies and procedures, who to go to for what. So one of the nice tools that we have rolled out is we have an intranet. It's a simpler product through Microsoft, I believe, and it connects with our HRIS system. So we have employee data that's fed into that, so you can look up a specific employee and the org chart, so how they fit within the company. So that's super helpful if people have their pictures on there, so you can put a face to a name, but that also houses the different policies that we have. We still need to drive adoption towards using that platform, but I think generally the most difficult issue is just making sure people know who to contact about what. So usually as I'm doing the onboarding for employees in the US, I'm the immediate contact. And then I'm able to help filter people to where they need to go.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And that's one of the great things about the digital age, right? Is that you can create the repository of all this information. You can give people access to it. They can go and find a lot of the answers to the questions they have, so that when it comes time to reach out to you directly, it's something that is I hate to say worth your time, but worth your time, because with as much growth as you guys have had, you can't onboard 75 employees or whatever it is that you've hired in the United States yourself, right? Like you need technological help to do that. Mm-hmm. One thing that I am always fascinated by with the recruiting process is, and this is completely unrelated to a lot of what we do at Capacity, but I still think it's valuable for any listeners out there who are looking at automating internal support, especially in the recruiting side. Have you leveraged any technology to help screen candidates or sort of narrow down the applicant pool?
Yeah, so we're currently evaluating systems to switch to a new ATS or applicant tracking system. So our current system doesn't necessarily have the AI capacity to evaluate and say this is a good candidate or this is not a good candidate. And that will be super helpful. But there's also the human element that, for me, we want to make sure that there's candidates who may not fit the typical profile, and we want to make sure that those individuals are considered, because
correct.
With diversity and inclusion is super important at our company, and we want to have people from a variety of different backgrounds, because we have customers from all over the world, and if we're not representing our customers, then we're going to miss out on how we build or how we sell or service our product.
Yeah, that's a great point. When I was at the HR Tech conference a couple years ago, last year's got canceled, but we go to some of the HR Tech shows and just saw all sorts of great innovation on screening and ATS and all sorts of the sort of recruiting and hiring process, all this great technology layered on top of that. And core to every single one, I think this is good for anybody in Craig's position where you're out shopping for this stuff, is really press the vendors on what they're doing to ensure the wrong kind of bias isn't getting into any of the algorithms that they're using, or that they're, you're really embracing that diversity and inclusion ethos, and that the tools that you're bringing on board are enabling that and not standing in the way of it. Which kind of leads me to a question that I always like to ask people in the HR space, and that is, have you, in your, whether it's at Chargebee or just throughout your career, talk to me about any apprehension you've seen from employees when automation, scary word, I'm doing scare quotes for those of us that aren't on the Zoom here. Things like automation and AI are brought into the operations. Like, what's some of the apprehension that you've heard, and some good ways to sort of assuage those concerns?
Yeah, so in my past company, we rolled out, just as I was leaving to move to Chargebee, we rolled out a people analytics platform that looks at metadata of employee data. It doesn't look at specific conversations, it just looks at. So one of the things it uses is organizational network analysis, but it doesn't actually look at the content of those conversations.
Just who talks to who kind of thing?
Exactly. And people and managers have a concern that if you if you're going to use this tool, then you're going to kind of be like a big brother and monitor what's going on when, in reality, we don't see or have that data at all. And so one of the concerns with, from a HR perspective is how much privacy are we giving employees? So there's that concern. As far as the automation process, I think generally people like things that are
done for
automated.
them.
And yeah. If it's not automated and it looks like it's simple and it should be, then, that they're wondering what's going on, what's wrong with you or the company.
There's a thought leader in the sort of digital rights and privacy policy space that I would recommend everybody listening, if you haven't followed her, Christina Podnar. I believe that's how you pronounce her last name. We'll put her Twitter handle in the show notes. She writes and speaks a lot about this kind of stuff, and it's super, super important. And Craig, you hit on the key here, which is you just have to have those open conversations with people. I mean, good, driven, high potential people that are committed and want to join your team and are bought in, like they're people are reasonable and intelligent, and you can steer people through some of the concerns and some of this stuff. You just have to be open and have the conversation. And that's ultimately what we try to tell, any prospects we're talking to, or just as we, try to create content out in the marketplace. Like, ultimately, automation is welcomed. Like, I like not having to sort of manually set up and schedule and send emails to our prospects. I like having Marketo sort of, work and do that stuff. Shout out to Adobe. Marketo do that for us. And that's a myopic example as a marketer, but in anyone's line of work, there's plenty of that kind of opportunity. One thing, Craig, that really interests me about this process is, in terms of onboarding and growth, you also have, offboarding, and you've got people that sort of work their way through the organization. What do you think is the key to creating a smooth offboarding process?
Not talking so much about the actual process, but the experience. I think
great point.
Leaving on a positive note where they don't have that bitter taste in their mouth because of something that happened within their last few weeks. So one thing that is unique to me since I joined Chargebee is we have employees in across the globe, and the notice period that employees have to give is typically longer than it is in the US. So in India, it could be a month or two. And in the US, that's typically 2 weeks. And so as a company, we have the opportunity to make sure that employees leave with the right experience where they can leave on a positive note. So I think that's kind of high level, but down to the specifics, I think it's important to collect feedback from the employee. And hopefully we do this, but hopefully as a company, you are collecting feedback throughout, and you're not just waiting until the employee is leaving and walking out the door. But one of the things we do is we do a exit interview verbally. In the past, I've done it just through surveys, electronic surveys. I think there's kind of pros and cons to each, but I think and this is one thing at my last company that my manager was really good at, was when you have those exit conversations before someone leaves, and you walk through some of the admin details, like what's going to happen to your pay and your benefits, et cetera. You spend time at the beginning to have a conversation to show your appreciation to the employee and what they did for the company. And then you can collect and solicit feedback.
I was just going to say, it's interesting hearing you talk, because at the end of the day, there's, we like to talk about AI and automation and everything on this. And it's like, basically, I wake up in the morning, have my coffee, and like think about automation. But at the end of the day, there's human conversations here, and just like, just principles of basic human decency and just sort of standard good citizen behavior that's expected. And every growing company also, like you just, as you grow, you net grow, but as you get more people, you deal with more people issues, just the way humans work. And there's something really nice about being able to leverage the tech stack you have so that more of your time is spent doing more meaningful actions. And like, that's one thing, I tell people all the time, like if buying the software, buying the tool, buying the widget enables you to have deeper work in whatever your core sort of charter is, then it's a good investment, right? In your line of work, it's providing these good experiences. So the team members at Chargebee flourish and happy productive employees, lo and behold, creates a successful business. So it's great just hearing you sort of double click on that.
Yeah, and that reminds me of the performance management process. So whether you have annual reviews, quarterly reviews, my philosophy is it should always be about the conversation, the feedback, both ways, from the manager to the employee, from the employee to the manager. And it should never be about the process or the tools that you're using. Sometimes people can get stuck with the process or the tools. And so there's different tools out there to help you with the performance management process to make it easier for the employee to solicit their feedback, the manager to solicit feedback. But I completely agree, especially on the performance management process, that the focus is on the conversation, not on, following a rigid process or being limited by the tools that you use.
Right. It's just speaking from my own experience. We use Lattice at Capacity for a lot of this stuff, and shout out to Lattice, great product. But you have to set that thing up to work the way your culture and your business works. And it's very easy to get trapped in the bells and whistles. Very specific example of Lattice is they have a little like feedback survey, like little micro feedback survey thing you can take. And if you do that, plus their one-on-one, plus like an ESAT, plus like the OKR, you end up just like in this Byzantine sort of layer of software that you forget what the core of the whole thing is, which is just like, let's make sure we have these conversations with the direct reports and let's document everything. So we kind of had to work through, as we've grown, sort of stripping that down and right sizing it to us. This is really good stuff. One thing that I always like to ask HR leaders is, what, if any, of the sort of technical support do you guys deal with? At ChargeBee, is it all like, if I have a computer problem or I need a new monitor stand or something, like, is that all IT, or does some of that fall into people operations as well?
So it's typically all IT. You can submit an email that'll create a help desk ticket, or you can do it via Slack. But one of the unique parts of my role in the US is we don't have an IT person here. So I'm not, helping people figure out what's the issue with their computer. But if they do need a new computer, or if employees do leave,
cushion or whatever,
then I send them. I have some laptops just underneath my desk that I can send them. But yeah, we have our our HR operations team that handles the payroll, they have an automated support ticket system through email to help automate that process.
Yeah. And as ChargeBee grows, you will. It's going to be fascinating to watch the ChargeBee grow, because you guys are already an international company. I assume that growth is going to kind of continue all over the world. It's not just going to be in one place or another. So you guys are sort of like, very quickly going to get into the, like the big global conglomerate challenges, just, on a, not necessarily have 50,000 employees, but even several thousand just spread across the globe like you do, is going to present some unique opportunities. Have you found that the onboarding and employee engagement and people success experience has changed drastically in the last year due to everything that's going on? Do you think it's, being an already distributed business, you guys are kind of ready for it in a way that maybe others weren't?
It's a great question. So I think as a company, our leaders are very focused on people. So we pride ourselves on being a people centric organization. But I think this last year has forced us, for better, to have more frequent one-on-one conversations just to check in with people to see how they're doing. Mm-hmm. So one of the things we started when the world shut down with COVID and everyone moved to working from home, we did weekly check-ins for a while with employees. So we had a team of us who would reach out and have phone conversations or Zoom calls with people just to check in and see how the person is doing. And that's something I've been doing with the U.S. employees, is checking on them on a quarterly basis to see how the person and the employee are doing. And then that's something we're going to be rolling out globally. We'll be checking on everyone on a quarterly basis.
Oh, that's great. Pulse survey type stuff. Love it. As we wrap up here, just one thing I would love to know is, if you were going to give a piece of advice to another person in people success and HR who is just getting started on bringing in some sort of automation into the people operations at their business, what would it be?
I would tell them to focus on the recruiting and onboarding experience, because that's the first taste of how they experience your company. And if you don't want to have them start off on the wrong foot. Plus there's a lot of paperwork that goes into onboarding, and you want the experience to be simple, seamless, so that they can maintain that excitement of joining a new company.
Yep. Great stuff. We'll end with our, I don't know, I haven't branded this segment yet. And people tweet me at jtron9k if you have any suggestions, but a little quick fire round, the famous five, the fabulous five.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. What is the book you recommend most to people?
There's a lot of great books. One of the best books I've read in the last year or two is No Rules Rules, Netflix and the Culture of Reinvention. It's by Reed Hastings and Aaron Meyer. It's a fantastic book about the culture of Netflix. I would definitely recommend it to any business leader, because they go against the norm. If it doesn't make sense, then don't do it. And it's very intuitive, but innovative.
Yeah, that's a famous company, famous for culture, right? So I'm sure that's a fabulous read. I've had it on the wish list for a while, but have not made my way to it yet. But you might have just helped me move it up the priority list there.
Yeah,
what's the best productivity hack you know? And the reason I ask this is every year we have a big running listicle of productivity hacks that we keep track of. And I hear some awesome ones. So I've started asking people this question on the podcast because you get some great answers. So the number one most useful productivity tip that you've implemented for yourself?
So there's probably a lot that I could learn from other people on this. One of the things that I do, and this is something that I do to help onboarding, is and this isn't, very impressive, but there's this standard email that I send to new hires at the end of their first day, and it contains a bunch of different information. And so I'm just, basically copy and pasting it from one new hire group to another. Just, make some tweaks here and there. But I think when you want to have the individual touch, but it takes too much time to do that when you have a high volume. So I think that's what I have found now. The new hires are going to know that maybe it's not as personable as a touch as I thought.
Well,
and that's worked for me.
No, there's definitely value to, if you're a Google Cloud company or O365, both Outlook and Gmail have templates and snippets and whatnot. And I have got tons of them because I, like you, found that I was sending the same email often. And there's nothing wrong with using a template. If the information's good and the information is something that needs to be repeated, this is exactly why these things exist. So I think that's, don't sell yourself short. That's the kind of thing people can take away. If you could recommend one site, blog, Slack community, LinkedIn group, et cetera, for people success professionals, what would it be?
So there's a guy named David Green. He's based out of the UK. He's a people analytics guru, thought leader. He collaborates on a monthly basis all of the people analytics articles on LinkedIn or on the web, and he puts that under one newsletter. And I think that's where HR can really add the most value, is the data that we bring, instead of just being, relying on your gut intuition. And so his monthly newsletter is super fascinating.
David Green, that's good stuff. We'll look it up and make sure we put it in the show notes. Yeah. Finally, if there's one person in your field that you could meet for a coffee or a cocktail or lunch, depending on the time of day and the vibe, who would it be?
Patty McCord. So she was the chief people officer at Netflix. She's now doing consulting. She actually spoke at one of our Champions of Chains conferences at Chargebee, and it was super fascinating. I love just the practical approach that she has towards HR. It's, if it's not working, why do we do it? And she has some really innovative thoughts about pay, performance, and other things.
Huh. Good stuff. Well, Craig, I really can't thank you enough. I appreciate you taking time out of your day to chat with us. And for our listeners, if they want to get in touch with you or follow you, where should they go to do so?
LinkedIn's the best. So they can just reach out to me on LinkedIn. Craig Soelberg, Soelberg.
Thank you so much, Craig. Really appreciate it. And we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, thanks, Justin. Appreciate it.
The Support Automation Show is brought to you by Capacity. Visit capacity.com to find everything you need for automating support and business processes in one powerful platform. You can find the show by searching for Support Automation in your favorite podcast app. Please subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. On behalf of the team here at Capacity, thanks for listening.